What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Pet Shop Boys. And indeed, shout out to Izzy, shout out to Seb, and anyone else who's looking forward to these Pet Shop Boys reactions. It's a group that I've known about for a long time, very limited interaction, but I'm very keen to go through, and the first track I was very intrigued by, very excited to continue this journey through their opening album, their debut album, 1986, Please. And indeed, it's funny, I mentioned I have very limited sort of interaction with them by memory or by experience. I do know two tunes, however, one of which we're going to react to now, which is West End Girls. The other tune I know is Single Bilingual. I'm a big fan of the original, but I encountered the original because way back in the day, my earliest days of buying records, so this would have been like 98, I got a record from 96 with a Baby Doc, or Quentin Franklin, who is a sort of famous like hard house, hard trance remixer and producer. He did a remix, he actually did two remixes now that I say that, of Pet Shop Boys' Single Bilingual, and one of which, the one I like a great deal, you know, it does its own thing, it does its hard trance sort of vibe, but it does incorporate a couple of the vocals and sort of looped, and again, you know, the original has sort of these like key like tonal hits, and the hard trance remix sort of incorporates that to a certain degree. So yeah, I ended up hearing the original because I needed to know what the original sounded like because I like the hard trance remix so much. But the only other tune I know from them from memory is West End Girls, because I definitely remember hearing this on the radio. I don't remember exactly when. If it's 86, it probably would have been, you know, in my later single digit days, like, you know, 87, 88 or so on. But I don't remember my sister, you know, getting into them as much. I mentioned before she was into like Depeche Mode, Spandau, and like Erasure, and a few other groups that I have come to love, either, you know, over the long haul, like with Depeche, or more recently. I want to say like Erasure is the one group where it's kind of in between. The songs I knew from them back in the day I absolutely loved, but it was only until recently that I really, you know, went on a deep dive through their albums. But I always like wanted to like more Erasure. I just, you know, wasn't exposed to enough of it, and for whatever reason I didn't take the deep dive until recently. But again, Pet Shop Boys, this is one of the two songs I did know before, you know, we came to do these reactions. What I don't remember too much is the lyrics. I think there is both like a class and geographical element to it, meaning like, you know, my focus as a historian is on late 18th and early 19th century in what we now call the American Southeast, which at the time was called the Southwest, by, you know, European and Euro-American authors and so on. At the end of the day, I have studied British history to a certain degree. When you get a, you know, graduate degree in history, you have to study history from different eras, although periodization is a very subjective and ultimately kind of retrospective, didactic framework, and not like real, like, you know, eras aren't real like in a actual historical sense. Regardless, the point is, I have studied British history to a certain degree, and, you know, my understanding of London is that, you know, historically, you know, over time, this may have changed, and obviously lots of big cities, they're constantly in flux, they're dynamic, there's, you know, short-term construction, longer-term processes like gentrification and so on. But my understanding is that historically, the east side of London, the East End, has been more you know, working class, more what here we call blue collar, and then whereas the West End, it has, you know, a lot of cultural and like arts institutions. It tends to be more affluent, again, at least like historically, and I think to a certain degree still today. So again, I think the idea of like East End boys and the West End girls, I think there's sort of like a, not only, you know, the idea of like maybe trying to seek out a connection and intimacy like outside of your own socio-cultural group, but also, again, the idea of, you know, for the East End boys, sort of the allure of like, you know, a flashy, kind of glamorous, or again, more affluent kind of West End girl. But I don't remember like the contours of that. Again, I feel like there is a class element, there is, you know, that geographical sort of space distinction, but I don't remember any of the sort of details, and I assume, you know, it's more than just that general concept. I assume there is either like a proper narrative, or at least like, you know, the way in which those class elements manifest, you know, through the perspective of either the East End boys or the West End girls. We'll have to see. So again, it's a song that I have like a vague recollection of, but not really enough to, you know, recall the lyrics in any meaningful sense. So let's get to it. This is West End Girls by the Pet Shop Boys, 1986, and the album is Please. Sonically, I do know this though. I love that sort of ambient feel. But the hats, the percussion lets you know we got a beat coming. Ah, the bass.
Sometimes you're better off dead. There's a gun in your hand that's pointing at your head. You think you're mad, too unstable, kicking in chairs and knocking down tables in a restaurant in a West End town. Call the police, there's a madman around, running down underground to a dive bar.
I didn't remember any of that.
In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls.
I love the way he sings the chorus.
In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. West End girls.
The synth bass, all the little percussive layers.
Voices, faces on posters, too many choices. If, when, why, what, how much have you got? Have you got it? Do you get it? If so, how often? Which do you choose? A hard or soft option? In a West End town, a dead end world.
I actually didn't remember that sort of background, almost like operatic vocal. That was crazy.
In a West End town, a dead end world. The East End boys and West End girls. West End girls. West End
I like the brass and these kind of vocals in. The brass is almost like progressive jazz style. I dig it.
In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. Ooh, West End town, a dead end world, East End boys, West End girls.
The Dead End World, West End Town, Dead End World. Trying to like put that piece into the puzzle.
You got a heart of glass or a heart of stone. Just you wait till I get you home. We've got no future, we've got no past. Here today, built to last in every city and every nation, from Lake Geneva to the Finland Station. And a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. Oh, West End town, a dead end world, East End boys, West End girls. West End girls.
That's the part that I would have, that I most recalled going into this. The end of the chorus. The synth bass in this is just rich and vivacious. The brass still doing work. It's a sonically like beautiful tune. I love it. Still not exactly sure what's going on. More on the verses in a minute. Subtle, soft singing, but fantastic. It's funny, we started like on the high street or something. end, it feels like we're being like taken out to sea, and like the track is, you know, still on the shore. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I love it. It's interesting. Like the verses. Number one, his vocal delivery is very different than, like, you know, a lot of, say, sung like synth pop songs. It felt kind of, you know, not like hip hop style, but it felt more like very rhythmic, like rhymed lines. Whereas again, the chorus feels again a bit more sing-songy, so to speak. But yeah, I really enjoyed that because I didn't quite remember that element. The chorus is really what was standing out to me going into it. So yeah, I really enjoyed the way he delivered the verses. And again, just that opening verse, it was like, you know, pulling out a gun at a West End restaurant, and then you're like running because the police are coming, and you're like going underground or something. Like, it's like, whoa, 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 we are like flying off the handle before I even really know what the score is. So yeah, obviously there's much more going on to the lyrics than I originally was sort of recalling. So yeah, I wonder like if the class sort of element as I was thinking of it is even relevant. But at any rate, definitely one that I'm going to listen to some more as we begin going through the Pet Shop Boys deep dive. So yeah, very cool tune. Again, got to listen to it some more lyrically, but sonically I enjoyed it a great deal. And again, like, didn't remember the brass. The brass, like I said, it gave it sort of like a smooth progressive jazz feel, and I like the way, you know, in moments it kind of felt more to the fore, but a lot of it was just sort of like accenting the overall soundscape sort of in the back and kind of like very subtly. So yeah, I like the arrangement, I like the composition of the tune. So shout out to Pet Shop Boys. Again, shout out to Izzy, Seb, and anyone else checking out these Pet Shop Boys reaction. It's a deep dive that I'm as excited about as any other. So yeah, let me know what you think of the tune. I will see you next time. Peace.